Chosen ones, there is a name living inside your chest right now, and on this 28th of August, a Friday that finds you more tired than triumphant, the whisper of God arrives with unusual clarity. Do not give up on this person. You know exactly whose face appears when those words settle. Perhaps you have prayed until the words ran dry. Perhaps you have stood at the edge of your own endurance, looking at the closed door of a prodigal child, a distant spouse, a fractured friendship, or a parent whose heart seems walled against you. The exhaustion of loving someone who does not seem to change is a specific kind of holy fatigue, and it has worn grooves into your prayers. You have wondered if continuing to hope makes you faithful or foolish. You have questioned whether your persistence is obedience or merely attachment dressed in spiritual language. The weight of carrying another soul in your intercession while managing your own disappointments has left marks on your spirit that few understand. If you feel that something significant is at stake in this particular struggle, if you sense that this specific relationship carries a weight you cannot fully articulate but must not abandon, then you may find deep resonance in the 7 principles of C.S. Lewis for the chosen, a companion for those learning to love without guarantee and to persist without possession. To access the ebook, go now to the top of the comments and click the link in the pinned comment. This is not about winning an argument or forcing a transformation. It is about understanding what happens inside you when God asks you to stay. Your body has been keeping the score, even when your mind tried to remain optimistic. You wake before dawn with a heaviness across your shoulders that has nothing to do with physical labor. You find yourself holding your phone, staring at a contact you dare not call, your thumb hovering over the screen while your breath grows shallow. In the quiet of your kitchen, where the coffee cools too quickly and the silence amplifies every worry, you feel the specific ache of loving someone who is absent while still alive. Your jaw tightens when well-meaning friends suggest you should simply move on, release them, let go and let God, as if holy detachment were as simple as deleting a number. Your chest constricts when you see other families whole and laughing, when you witness reconciliations that seem to come easily to others, while your own prayers feel like letters sent to a vacant address. This is the cost of carrying a hope that seems deferred. The fatigue settles into your bones. You carry it into your work, into your worship, into the way you move through rooms where their absence feels louder than any noise. But here is the promise that this specific Friday, this 28th of August, offers you. Not a guarantee that the person will return by nightfall, not a contract that says your waiting ends today, but an invitation to recognize what God is doing in the unseen places of your own heart while you wait. This message does not come to declare that reconciliation is scheduled or that their heart will soften by morning. It comes to help you identify what kind of spiritual ground you are standing on. Perhaps you are in a season of intercession, where your persistence is forming something in you that could not grow in easier soil. Perhaps you are learning the difference between controlling love and covenant love. Perhaps this waiting is not empty time, but active formation. The recognition itself changes the atmosphere. When you understand that you are not merely waiting for them to change, but are being changed by how you wait, the posture of your soul shifts. You begin to see that the command to not give up is first about your own heart staying soft, not about their immediate response. Picture this scene and see if it does not feel familiar. You are standing in a hallway or perhaps sitting in your car in the driveway, and you have just ended a conversation that left you bleeding internally. The words were not cruel necessarily, but they were final or distant, or filled with a resignation that felt like a small death. You close the door behind you, or you rest your forehead against the steering wheel, and you wonder how many more times you can have this same exchange. The air feels thin. Your hands are steady, but your spirit is trembling. You look at the sunset or the streetlights coming on, and you ask the question that has become your companion. How long, Lord? Not how long until they change, but how long must I carry this weight of loving someone who seems unreachable? This is the concrete reality of the chosen ones who are called to love beyond reason. It is not dramatic or cinematic. It is quiet, repetitive, and hidden from public view. This is why you notice the weight of this particular command, because you are not simply optimistic by nature, nor are you naive about human stubbornness. You are discerning enough to know that some relationships require a release, yet something in your spirit hesitates to call this one finished. You sense that if you let go now, you might be abandoning a post that God assigned specifically to you. You have tried to walk away before, perhaps, or at least to numb the hope, but the name keeps returning to your prayers uninvited. This is not obsession. This is the particular burden of those chosen to stand in the gap for someone who cannot yet stand for themselves. If you are tired of waiting without understanding what the waiting is building in you, if you need help distinguishing between a season of persistence and a season of release, the 7 Principles of C.S. Lewis for the Chosen offers a framework for recognizing whether you are in a time of preparation, closure, or steadfast intercession. Many readers who arrived feeling confused or tired of waiting said the material helped them understand their season more clearly, organize their prayers, or stop interpreting every silence as abandonment. To access the ebook, go now to the top of the comments and click the link in the pinned comment. The clarity you gain will help you see that your continued love is not a mistake, but a formation. You are learning to love with open hands rather than clenched fists. Yet the opposition is real, and it speaks with a voice that sounds almost reasonable. It whispers that you are wasting your time, that wisdom requires cutting losses, that emotional health demands distance. The world around you celebrates boundaries and self-care, often rightly so, but sometimes the enemy of your calling dresses itself in the language of wisdom to convince you that faithfulness is foolishness. You feel the pressure to give up not because you hate them, but because you are exhausted by the hope that keeps disappointing you. Distraction offers itself as anesthesia. You could busy yourself with new projects, new relationships, new addictions to productivity, anything to silence the specific ache of this particular prayer. Comparison creeps in, showing you others who seem to have easier relationships, smoother reconciliations, more visible results from their prayers. The opposition does not always come as hatred. Sometimes it comes as the temptation to become practical, to stop believing that your love makes any difference, to harden your heart just enough to stop feeling the disappointment. This is the first real battleground, the choice between numbing the pain or continuing to feel it while trusting God with the outcome. Consider Moses standing before the burning bush, called to go back to Egypt for a people who had already rejected him once. He knew their stubbornness, he knew their slavery mentality. He knew that loving them would cost him decades of frustration in the wilderness. Yet God did not tell Moses that the people would be easy or that they would respond immediately. He simply said, "I have seen their misery, and I am sending you." Moses had to learn that his persistence was not dependent on their responsiveness. His obedience was anchored in the character of God, not the results he saw. You are in a similar position. You have been sent back again and again to a heart that seems like Egypt, hard and resistant and slow to believe. The miracle is not that they eventually listened, though many did, but that Moses continued to return, even when they complained, even when they wished to go back, even when they built golden calves while he was on the mountain, receiving the very words that would save them. Your persistence mirrors his. You keep showing up for someone who may not yet appreciate the sacrifice, and this is not wasted. It is the making of a deliverer. If you ignore this signal, if you allow the exhaustion to convince you that giving up is the same as trusting God, Something in your spirit will slowly calcify. You will not necessarily become bitter immediately, but you will become guarded. You will stop hoping for anything specific because the disappointment of specific hopes has wounded you too many times. The cycle of repeated hurt will teach you to expect abandonment, and you will begin to interpret every delay as a final answer. Your peace will leak away slowly, not in a dramatic crisis of faith, but in a quiet settling for less than what God promised to do through your faithfulness. The danger is not that you will stop loving them, but that you will stop believing that love can bear fruit in impossible soil. You will lose the tenderness that makes intercession possible. You will become efficient in your prayers, but mechanical in your hope. This is the cost of surrendering the post too early. Not punishment, but the slow loss of the spiritual sensitivity that allows you to feel what God feels for the lost and the wandering. So let this day, this 28th of August, serve as a marker of remembrance. Not as a magical date on a celestial calendar, but as a moment when you choose to remember why you started praying in the first place. The command to not give up on this person is not a life sentence of misery. It is an invitation to partner with God in a work that is bigger than your immediate comfort. You are standing at a threshold. Behind you is the temptation to close the door and call it wisdom. Before you is the narrow path of persistent love. As a simple act of agreement with the posture of perseverance, type 777 in the comments below, signifying your alignment with the completeness of God's timing rather than the panic of your own. Then return to this word, because what comes next is the deeper root you must examine, for the conflict is not merely between you and their resistance. The deeper battle is within your own expectations. You must confront the part of you that wants to control the narrative, that believes if you pray the right words or love with the perfect strategy, you can manufacture the outcome. This is the hidden root, the subtle shift from intercession to manipulation, from loving them to needing them to change so that you can feel successful. You must ask yourself hard questions. Are you loving them for their sake, or are you loving them to prove that your love is powerful enough? Are you willing to continue if the transformation takes decades? Are you willing to be faithful even if they never become the person you envision? This internal examination is not meant to shame you, but to free you. When you recognize that your calling is to love, not to fix, the pressure lifts. You are not responsible for their response. You are responsible for your obedience. Recognition alone, however, is not enough to sustain you through the long middle of this journey. You need practical wisdom for how to maintain boundaries without closing your heart, how to pray without obsessing, how to hope without demanding. The 7 Principles of C.S. Lewis for the Chosen provides that practical companion, offering guidance on reflection, discernment, and identifying the next faithful step when emotions are unreliable. It helps you distinguish between the voice of fear that says give up and the voice of wisdom that says rest. To access the ebook, go now to the top of the comments and click the link in the pinned comment. With these tools, you can continue loving without losing yourself in the process. You can be present without being consumed. Your mind tries to solve this like a problem to be fixed, running scenarios and strategies late into the night. Your body reacts with anxiety, the tight chest, the restless sleep, the physical symptoms of carrying a burden that is partly spiritual. But your spirit recognizes something deeper, a resonance with the heart of God, who also loves persistently without guarantee. The challenge is learning to live from that spiritual recognition rather than from mental panic or physical exhaustion. You must learn to distinguish between the anxiety that comes from trying to control and the peace that comes from trusting. The anxiety says, do more, say more, force the issue. The peace says, love them, release the outcome, stay available. One leads to burnout, the other leads to endurance. You are learning to tell the difference, and this discernment is perhaps the most important fruit of this season. This affects every relationship and environment you enter. You begin to see others through the lens of this persistent love, but you must be careful not to become suspicious of everyone or to isolate yourself in your pain. Discernment does not mean cynicism. It means understanding that just as you are fighting for one person, others are fighting for you, and still others are fighting battles you cannot see. Your persistence with this one person teaches you compassion for the persistence of others. You become slower to judge, quicker to pray, more aware that everyone is carrying a hidden weight. You do not become a doormat, accepting abuse or dysfunction in the name of love. Rather, you learn to love with boundaries, to speak truth with grace, to stay when staying is right, and to step back when stepping back is trust. The wisdom you gain here makes you a safer person for everyone else you love. The opposition has a strategy, and it is usually exhaustion. It cannot make you hate them, so it will try to make you tired of loving them. It will use noise, the constant distraction of a busy world, to keep you from the quiet place where intercession happens. It will use fatigue, the physical weariness of daily life, to convince you that you do not have the energy to care anymore. It will use delay, the simple passage of time without visible change, to suggest that nothing is happening. It will use lesser urgencies, the immediate demands of work and routine, to crowd out the eternal significance of this one soul. You must recognize these tactics for what they are. They are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that what you are doing matters enough to be resisted. The enemy does not waste energy on insignificant assignments. The very fact that you feel pressure to give up is evidence that your persistence is threatening to darkness. Here is the turning point, and it may happen quietly, without fanfare. You stop negotiating with the truth that you are called to love this person. You stop asking God to change your assignment or to explain why it has to be so hard. You accept that this is your post, your particular battlefield, your specific act of worship. The shift is subtle but profound. You move from why me to here I am. You stop looking for an exit and start looking for God's presence in the staying. This does not mean you become passive or accept mistreatment. It means you stop fighting the fact that love is costly. You embrace the cross of this particular relationship. You say, in essence, I will not give up, not because I am strong, but because the one who called me is faithful, and he will provide the strength I do not have. This is the moment when your waiting transforms from passive endurance to active faith. Consider the image of a bridge under construction, suspended over a deep canyon. You are building this bridge with your prayers, your tears, your continued presence, and your refusal to walk away. The person you love is on the other side, and the canyon between you is wide and filled with the noise of rushing water, the sound of past hurts, misunderstandings, and the chaos of their current resistance. For a long time, the work feels futile. You sink pylons into the rock, but the other side seems no closer. You string cables, but they sway in the wind of their moods. The construction site is messy, loud, and dangerous. You work in the fog, unable to see the other side clearly, trusting that the blueprints are accurate even when your eyes cannot confirm the progress. The formation of this bridge happens in secret, in the hidden places where no one applauds. You are the engineer and the laborer, and God is the architect. Every prayer you whisper when you are tired is a steel beam placed in the darkness. Every time you choose kindness when you want to retaliate, you are laying another plank. The bridge is being built not only across the canyon to them, but also deep into the bedrock of your own character. The pylons go down before they go across. The foundation is invisible, buried in the stone of your faith, and without this hidden work, the visible structure will not hold. You are being preserved even as you build. The patience required for this construction is forming in you a strength that easy relationships could never produce. But the opposition to this construction is constant. The wind tries to tear down the scaffolding. The rain tries to rust the materials. The canyon itself seems to widen some days, as if the earth is shifting to prevent your connection. There are moments when the cables snap, when the planks you laid yesterday fall into the abyss, when the other side seems to move further away rather than closer. You work in the dark some nights, unable to see if anything you are doing is making a difference. The noise of the water below threatens to drown out the quiet voice that tells you to keep building. Discouragement is the chief enemy here, whispering that the canyon is too wide, the person too far gone, the task too great for your feeble tools. Yet the bridge continues to move, inch by inch, plank by plank. There comes a moment when you look across and realize that the gap is narrower than it was. The bridge is taking shape. You can see the outline of the other side more clearly now. The structure is not complete, but it is real, it has weight, it has substance. The person on the other side may not have started walking toward you yet, but they can see the bridge now. They know it is there. Your persistence has created a way where there was no way. The movement is slow, almost imperceptible day by day, but over months and years, the trajectory is undeniable. The bridge is rising. As you stand on this unfinished bridge, feeling the wind and seeing the distance still to go, you recognize that you are not alone in this work. Others have built bridges before you. Others are building now. This is the nature of the love that does not give up. It constructs pathways in the wilderness. It creates possibility where there was only separation. If you see this image, if you recognize yourself as a builder of bridges over impossible divides, type "I am building" in the comments as a declaration of your role in this construction. Then return, because we must talk about what it means to actually walk on what you are building. The return to this person, the actual walking across the bridge you are building, is not a performance. It is not about proving that you were right to persist or that your love has conquered all. It is simply the next step of faithfulness. You do not cross the bridge to demand a response. You cross to deliver yourself, your love, your presence, and then you leave the results to God. Some days you may only be able to stand on the bridge and wave. Some days you may need to retreat to your side to rest and repair. The return is cyclical, not linear. You keep showing up, not because you are perfect, but because you are called. The bridge is not a trap to catch them, but a gift to free them. You build it so that when they are ready, the way back to you and perhaps to God is clear and passable. Practice 1 is the morning seal, a specific moment before you begin your day when you consciously place this person back into God's hands. Before you check your phone, before you rehearse arguments or imagine confrontations, you sit in the quiet and you say their name. You visualize them not as they are in their resistance, but as they are in their design. You seal the day with a prayer of release, acknowledging that you are not their savior. You are their intercessor, their bridge builder, but the outcome belongs to God. This practice protects you from the anxiety of trying to control. It grounds you in the reality that you are partnering with the divine, not working alone. Do this every morning and watch how it changes the posture of your heart throughout the day. Practice 2 is the threshold pause, a moment of intentional breathing before you enter any space where you might encounter them or think of them. Before you walk into a family gathering, before you answer their text, before you lie down to sleep with their name heavy on your mind, you pause at the threshold, you breathe deeply, you remind yourself that you are bringing peace, not panic. You check your own emotional state, ensuring that you are responding from love rather than reacting from hurt. This pause creates a buffer between your wounds and your words. It allows the Holy Spirit to govern your tongue. It transforms ordinary interactions into opportunities for grace. The threshold becomes holy ground where you choose your response rather than being hijacked by your triggers. There is protection in limits, in knowing that you cannot be available every moment, that you cannot answer every call, that you must sometimes close the door to rest. God himself rested, and you are not more infinite than he. The mercy of boundaries is that they preserve your ability to love long-term. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot build bridges if you collapse from exhaustion. Learn to recognize the difference between sacrificial love and self-destruction. The former gives life, the latter breeds resentment. It is holy to say, I need to rest now, I will pray tomorrow, I cannot discuss this tonight. These limits are not failures, they are the rhythm of sustainable faithfulness. You must make a decision today, a clear and specific choice about how you will steward this love. Will you continue to pray even when you feel nothing? Will you speak blessing even when they curse? Will you remain open even when you want to shut down? The decision is not a feeling, it is a commitment of the will. Write it down if you need to. Speak it aloud. Tell God that you are staying, not because you are strong, but because He is worthy of your trust. Stewardship means managing this relationship as a gift, not a burden. It means tending the bridge, repairing the planks, keeping the cables tight, and trusting that the completion is in better hands than yours. If this word has resonated with the deep places of your spirit, if you feel the quiet affirmation that you are indeed called to persist in love for this person, let your like be a silent amen. It requires no words, no explanation, just a simple acknowledgement that you have received this truth. Let it be a private agreement between you and God that you will not give up. Then continue, because there is one more act of love to perform. Someone came to your mind while you were listening, perhaps not the person you have been praying for, but someone else who is building their own bridge over a difficult canyon. They are tired too. They are wondering if their persistence matters. They need to hear that they are not foolish for continuing to hope. Share this message with them, not as a command, but as a gift of recognition. Tell them you thought of them, that you see their faithfulness, that they are not alone in the long work of love. Your sharing may be the very encouragement that keeps them from abandoning their